It is great pleasure to introduce Reverend Mary Mitchell, who's going to speak on great possibilities.
Nice. Very nice, thank you. It's always great to have Anton and Laura here. Thank you so much. Great possibilities. How do you feel about that in your life? Great possibilities. Well, it's the title of a chapter in a book by Dr. Ernest Holmes. It was one of the last books he wrote before he died. It's called A New Design for Living. So you can tell what he's talking about, a new design for living. And it's focused on the power of what we call the law of cause and effect. This is something that's at work in our life every day, every moment, that we're awake and unawake, because it works with both parts of our mind, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. We often explain the law of cause and effect by saying, take a tomato seed and plant it in good soil and water it, focus your energy on it, focus the watering, and you get a tomato plant. You don't get anything else but that, because within that seed is an invisible inherent power that only will make a tomato plant. Now, if you're like me and you forget to water it, that's not going to help too much. Or if you put it in clay soil, it's not going to grow too well. But those are the outer things that impact this seed. But the seed itself, when you plant a tomato seed, the result is a tomato plant, whether it's healthy or not. Tomato plants or tomato seeds are influenced by their surroundings. So if you don't weed the garden, it makes it more difficult for the plant to grow. And so in order to have a healthy plant, it takes not only attention, but intention, the intention to care for this plant. Well, the law of cause and effect works for us every moment of every day, because it's our thoughts that we're planting into mind. We're planting our thoughts and our beliefs. So we have what's called the objective mind, which is the mind we're thinking with right now, and the subjective mind, which is also called subconscious mind. So we're taking our thoughts and we're planting them into our subconscious mind. Now, it will always create something, but it depends on what you've planted, whether you like what it creates or not. So we always want to be the guardians of our mind. But when we understand how the law of cause and effect works, life flows a lot easier. For example, the other day, a teacher who comes here to the center was telling me, she came into the office and was telling me that there was a child in the second grade class whose front of their shoes were all worn out because their toes grew through the front of the shoes. And she felt so bad about this that she went and talked to the parents and said, I will buy your child a pair of shoes. And the parents said, oh no. They were too proud to accept that. So she was a little intrigued about how this child could get some shoes. And so we were talking, and I said, well, hey, why don't we recreate our flyer and say that our Shoes for Souls program on the third Monday has shoes for children, and then they can go and get some shoes. So we redid the flyer and gave it to the family. She gave it to the family, and they were so appreciative because they could do that. It was their choice, and they could get these free shoes for her children. Well, other parents in the school heard about this and other teachers, and now they're all starting to contribute shoes to our Shoes for Soul program. So you see how that works. This teacher's intention, her attention to the children, but her intention to have this child wear shoes that fit her feet, created an opportunity for us to blend our ideas together and make something wonderful happen. That's the law of cause and effect. She put the law into motion, and the effect is that child is going to have good shoes. But it also is stimulating other creative energies in people to bring more shoes here to the center. Now, if you have a deep belief about something, let's say that isn't as pleasant, that you're a victim in life, guess what thoughts you're putting into subconscious mind and watering? Victimhood. Very unpleasant thing to be a victim because you feel everybody's preying upon you. It creates an energy that it's always creative, because subconscious mind never says no, it always says yes. So if you're planting negative seeds, look out. There's going to be some things that are happening that you're not going to be too excited about. So it's all about our consciousness. And I went on to Google and I said, okay, give me some things about consciousness. And this website popped up called greatday.com. If you ever want to have a great day or shift your energy of the day, go to greatday.com. And it sounded like Dr. Barker. If you read on Charles Barker, he's kind of in your face with his truth. And here's the first one I saw. You can do better and you know it. I went, whoa, that's Dr. Barker. Because we always have that place where we aren't doing our best, and yet it's the best we can do at the moment, but you can do better. And something in you knows that. Right now, you have an opportunity this week after hearing this talk to put your best into action, and you'll know why as we go through this. And it might be just cleaning out the garage. Now, Paul and I are going on vacation this week. Exciting. So what did we do yesterday? We cleaned out the garage because we're going to have somebody staying at our house, and we don't want to be embarrassed. I was pulling weeds, and he was spraying weeds, and it's like, oh, we're going to have someone here. It needs to reflect our consciousness, which kind of, let a few weeds grow for a while. So you can see that. So we are the collective consciousness of infinite possibilities in this life. Infinite possibilities. At the 9 o'clock at the guided meditation, I encourage people to think, what could you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Is there something in your life you would do if you knew you couldn't fail? And the truth is, put some attention and intention into that, and you will be amazed at how easy it flows. So we have objective and subjective mind, all part of consciousness. Now, I looked in the Science of Mind text. We have a thing called a concordance, which tells you what page every word you ever wanted to know about the book is on. And the consciousness is in the book 173 times. It's that important. So we have our objective consciousness, the one you're listening to me with, hopefully. And then we have the subjective conscious that you're saying, yeah, this is a bunch of and good or bad, putting that into subconscious mind. So the more energy you give it, the more creative it is, because it always, like watering a plant, it's always creating something. But at the same time, it's taking into account your surroundings, who you surround yourself with. What kind of TV shows do you watch? What kind of books do you read? Those all influence subconscious mind. As Jesus said, it's done unto you as you believe. Gosh, he was right. And we keep proving that to ourselves. And if you haven't proven it enough, please try it this week. There's a lot of amazing things that will happen. Because Ernest Holmes said, the tough thing about this philosophy is we tend to do too much theory and not enough practice. That's why in classes we always encourage students, practice it, prove it to yourself. Because once you do, then there's no going back to just wishful thinking. There's no going back. I have been taking this hospice course at Mercy, and I had to take a bunch of things into the class last week, and parking at Mercy is not always, I'm not going to say always, often a challenge. You're either downhill and it's hot and you got to walk up the hills or go in the parking garage, and I thought, I've got all these bags to take in. All the while I'm driving, I'm going, right and perfect parking spaces there for me. I just know it because I'm doing good things. I'm working with hospice. I'm bringing these things. It's good. It's going to be a good day. And as soon as I pulled up, those little 5 spaces by the door, the one closest to the door was open, but there was a car in front of me. And I looked and I went, no, it's all right. They passed by that parking space and didn't even see it because it's hardly ever open. But I saw it and I got it. And it was just a little, it's one of those fun little things that we get to do for ourselves, is just think better thoughts, better things happen. So what I really want to know is what Ernest Holmes would ask you if he was here, because he said this to everyone he met. He would say, what I want to know is, are you happy with the results in your life? Are you happy with what's happening in your life? Because if you aren't, there's something in you that does know. And then he would get all smiles and he'd say, let's go figure it out. He was that kind of happy guy. So are you happy with the results in your life? Because it's your consciousness, this consciousness and subconsciousness, that is making all this happen. Now, I know that anybody's here are you're really courageous people. And you listen to this and you take it to heart, because otherwise you'd say, I don't want to deal with that. I'm just going to take a life of potluck. But you aren't, and I commend you for that. But what is a higher state of consciousness? Like, we have our consciousness. Is there a high and low? Well, there really is. What is a higher state of consciousness? And it's a consciousness that's colored more by the emotions of love, courage, happiness, acceptance, peace, joy. That's a higher, what we call a higher state of consciousness. Because there's enough people in the world with a lower state of consciousness that believe they need guns in order to force the world to be what they want it to be. People that are pessimistic, people that always see the worst, that don't see the good that's really behind everything. Several years ago, I met with someone who was having chronic stomach problems, and we listened to the effect, because that's an effect. Then we try to find the cause in consciousness. And I said, is there anything in your life experience where you really deeply regret doing something? And she said, oh yeah, about 20 years ago, I did this, and I deeply regret it to this day, deeply. It's a digestion problem. The digestion problem is still being unable to cope with what she had done 20 years ago. Could not digest what she had done. Do you see that? Digest it. Couldn't digest it. So I said, well, Emma Curtis Hopkins says, whatever we're doing in any moment is the best we can do at that moment. And it's in hindsight that we go, boy, that was really stupid. Or that was really bad, and I'll never get over it. But really, we were just doing the best we could at that moment. And if in hindsight it looks like it wasn't a good idea, just accept it. This person could not get beyond that. But if we just say, best I could do, and go on with life, we don't end up with these problems. Because chronic digestion problems will end up in a more serious illness, but it's clearing the consciousness of the person to just let it go and let it be and move on with life. I'm an avid reader, and I like to share with you what I'm learning, because I don't like to just say the same things all the time, and I have been enthralled with Dr. David Hawkins' books. He's really called Sir David Hawkins. He was knighted by the Queen of England. He's been a psychiatrist, physician, researcher. In 1983, he created the Institute for Spiritual Research. He has lectured at Westminster Abbey, the Oxford Forum, Harvard, Notre Dame, Institute of Noetic Sciences. He's written many, many books. The one I read about a month ago is called Power versus Force: How to Go Through Life with Personal Power Instead of Force. Guns are force, war is force, screaming and yelling is force, but personal power is the power we get when we know that all this is an effect and we're just dealing with it. It's really based on quantum physics, and he said it's also based on the various stages of spiritual learning that you get from the world's great teachings. And so for over 45 years, he's been studying this. And he said every progressive level of consciousness creates a vibration or a frequency, and that working with subconscious mind is what creates good, better, or indifferent. But if it's good, it has a healing effect on the whole world. That vibration has a healing effect on the world. The book I'm reading right now is called Transcending the Level of Consciousness, and his conclusions are quite fascinating. He has rated consciousness on a scale of 1 to 1,000. Now, you might know the chakra system, where you have the different colors of the energy system. Or you might know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where the first need is food and shelter, and then it goes up to relationships, and it builds to the highest level of need, which would be a self-realization thing. Well, this is similar to that. And what he found after years and years of research in it, and I don't know exactly how all he did this, but at a consciousness level of 200, we pass a barrier. Below 200, it tends to be very negative and forceful, very negative, victimizing, unhappiness. But when we get beyond 200, there's a major shift. Now, the major shift is into our own personal power. We don't have to use force anymore. We're into using our personal power. And so he explains it like this, and I kind of think of it as the pair of opposites that we teach in class. He gives examples. Let's say the lower mind is at 155 and the higher mind is at 275. We've passed the 200 barrier. So here's the difference. Impatient, tolerant. Constrictive, expansive. Sympathetic, empathetic. See the differences? More negative, more positive. Rude, polite, ungrateful, appreciative. Complacent versus self-improvement. When you're above 200, you go into a consciousness of wanting to improve yourself, self-improvement. So you can kind of check yourself on some of those to see where it might be. But it sounds like the under 200 is a whole different place. It sounds like a whole different society. And yet it is blended in our society. You probably have met people that are just, their nature is just rudeness. Well, they've got a ways to go before their consciousness raises to a higher level to see the benefit of love and to see the benefit of kindness. It's like studying the science of mind. Our textbook is a little challenging to read. We don't encourage people reading it on their own because you get tired of the 1938 style of writing. But it's a very powerful book. But if you're in class and we can discuss it and kick some ideas back and forth, you'll find that as you work through that book, your consciousness is raised to a whole new level of understanding how things work. That's why practitioners and ministers love to teach this. We love to watch you blossom. We love to see the ahas. We love to see you feeling empowered to think whatever you want to think and to do whatever you want to do, because we're not going to tell you that. We're just going to enable you to get to that place where you feel empowered to do these things, to have a better life experience. So below 200, people are driven more by fear, pride, guilt, and shame, and they're more aggressive. Once you get above 200, the more positive emotions come in. And that's the fun part of watching. Now, he says his research shows 80% of the world's population is below 200. Now, I can understand that when I think of Africa, China, Russia, all those third world countries, a lot of Africa and a lot of different places, 80% of the world's population, but in the US, it's only 49%. We've come a long way. We have the freedom and the encouragement for self-improvement. But the other thing he found out is that at 155, only 15% of the people are happy that are at that level. But when you get to 275, it quadruples and 60% of the people are happy. So just thinking of that, if you're not feeling a high level of happiness, it's time for self-improvement. It's time for classes, because you can get there, because a lot of people in the world are there. So between 200 and 400, our emotions expand, our openness expands, our spirituality expands. Because he says at some point, you just get in touch with this higher power. You can't resist it, the more you're open to it. He also said above 300, people have a greater income. They have a higher credit score. They're in better physical health, and they have a lot more personal satisfaction. Who wouldn't want that? Above 500, love becomes dominant, and we bring spiritual practices into our life based on the world's greatest teachings. It's a natural evolution of consciousness to do that. And at 700 and above are the stages of enlightenment that Jesus, Buddha, and other great saints and teachers have reached. So here's the challenge. Hawkins says, from all his years of research, that the average person only increases their level of consciousness 35 points. But that's not you. Because you are doing self-improvement. You are exploring much deeper. You are, if you haven't taken classes, doing things to open yourself up to the true potential within. Like Ernest Holmes said, What I really want to know about you is, are you happy with the results of your life? Because if you're not, the world, the universe is waiting for you to just pay attention with a great intention. What Science of Mind is really all about is the evolution of consciousness. It's not how to get things or do things or whatever. It's about being in a state of higher consciousness so that the world is at your beck and call. On greatday.com it said, dive headfirst into the richness that awaits you. Live, feel, think, and act at a level that's worthy of your unique and miraculous collections of opportunities. The possibilities are in you right now. And I encourage you, through classwork, through reading, through study, keep going, keep going. This lifetime is a grand adventure, and we're here to help you do it. So let's embed that in consciousness with a prayer. I feel the oneness. I feel the wholeness. I feel the great potential that awaits me and everyone here, and being open to a greater way of life. It doesn't mean outside trappings, it means inner recognition of our oneness with God. That we have the power to co-create with this infinite intelligence what we want our life to be. And for most of it, it's a deep, pure love. A deep, pure love for each other, for our spouses, our friends. A deep, pure love for the sunshine, for the rain. A pure love for every day that we're blessed to be here. Knowing that this place on planet Earth is an adventure that we've been blessed with. So we give it our best. We give it our best by being open at the top, just like Ernest Holmes said, open to newness, letting our curiosity run wild, being fully present in the moment and just feeling the joy, feeling the joy. Thank you, Spirit, for this time together, for the recognition that consciousness is what it's all about. And as we grow and learn, we are closer to the one in so many ways. Thank you, Spirit. We see the law at work. We see the presence. We see the possibilities, and we know it's all pure love. And for this, we are so grateful. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you.